Okay. Chalo. So today we will discuss case studies, right? Now we have taken only 2 case studies today for paucity of time, and I don't want to engage too much time with case studies because abhi you have to complete your theory wala question also. Now first you have to understand that in case of UPSC, the range of marks in case study, the spectrum of marks in case study is very high. You can get as low as 6, 6.5. And if you address the case study well, and I will tell you what are the key factors, then you can get as high as 11.5 to 12. So the range of marks in case studies is very high, right? This is the first thing. The second thing, case study is, as you know, is nothing but the implementation of your theory part, right? So one thing you have to understand in case study is writing is secondary, application is primary. And application will only take place if you read the case very well. So when we are practicing case study, we have to develop this art or technique where we not only read the case like very well in a very minutely, but in a shortest period of time, because technically you will have around 14 to 15 minutes to write per case study. Okay? And if you're taking more than 4 to 5 minutes just to read particular case, you will have only 10 minutes to write. 10 minutes basically means that you can effectively write around 2.5 to 3 pages, which filling the page is not the goal. But if you are writing for a case study, like in a case study, write 2.5 to 3 pages, and somebody who is completing the entire 4 pages with proper content, obviously marks will go to him or her, right? So here you have to understand that the art lies not only in writing, but application, which depends on how you read and how quickly you read. Okay. So first is introduction, importance of case studies. The purpose is to test practical application of ethics, integrity, compassion, and decision making. Now these are some of the values I have mentioned. There will be many other values which will be applicable, and we'll take those values. From exam perspective, 120 marks, but I have told you that the spectrum of marks is very high. So here you can get like around, like if you write well, right? Write well in the sense, like you make sure that you write all the 6 questions with equal importance and give equal content, you can get as high as 72 to 75, which is really good, right? And another thing you have to understand, unlike your theory-based question can be difficult. It can be lengthy. It can be something which requires you to think and write, recollect some content. Case study has a benefit. If you prepare around 10 to 12 areas, so today we will deal with only 2 areas, right? We'll deal with workplace ethics, and we will deal with crisis management and conflict. Like these are the major areas. Every year they ask this question. Every year you will have workplace ethics, you will have crisis management. Okay? Now, but there are 11 to 12 forms of case studies. If we prepare these 11 to 12 forms of case studies, we know the overall structure. We just have to go read, identify the stakeholders, identify the conflict, and copy paste the structure that you have learned. So it's a very simple process, right? But being simple process, the important thing is that you have to practice. Okay? You have to practice. Now, you have to understand something. What are the skills that they, like when they are seeing your paper, what are the things that they are focused on? First is stakeholder analysis, right? Now, stakeholder analysis does not mean that you have to write down the stakeholder. In this particular class, you will see in one case I have given stakeholders. Okay, directly UPSC will not will not categorically say list down the stakeholders, right? They will not say that list down the stakeholders, but it is important that you highlight the stakeholders, because a case studies cannot be formed if there aren't 2 things. Which are the 2 things? One is stakeholder, and the second is crisis, issue, dilemma. Dilemma is a subpart of crisis. So a case has to have these 2 elements, stakeholder and your crisis. So stakeholder analysis means that when you are giving, let's say, course of action, when you are mentioning options, that this particular analysis is done. Second, This is an ethics paper. Hence, your reasoning should be ethical reasoning. Your reasoning should be ethical reasoning. And I'll show you, you have to use ethical terms. Right? And make sure that these ethical terms recur in your case study often. Right? Acha, balancing values and consequences. Now, if there is an issue, you are a diplomat, or let's say you are a DM, district magistrate. Now, the most important thing that you have to understand is that there will be confronting values, right? And you have to balance those values based on the situation, based on the priority, right? And there will be intended and unintended consequences also. If you are, let's say, a person who does not have an Aadhaar card, and you are giving that person the food grain because he or she is very poor, it's a very common thing. What is the unintended consequence? You are breaching the so-called administrative protocol. That is the unintended consequences, right? But here you have to highlight this unintended consequence because you are balancing value. What are the values that you are balancing? First is that compassion, administrative ethos, take it. And last but not least, this is very important, realistic, implementable solutions. You cannot be utopic. You cannot be Salman Khan's Dabang, right? You can do this and that, and like you can make sure that there is retributive, distributive, and all kind of justice implemented by a same person. It's not possible, right? So realistic, implementable solution has to be reflected, and your marks actually will depend on this. How realistic it is, and it might be boring. A solution does not mean a realistic and implemented solution does not mean it has to be an interesting solution. Not necessary. Like it is always said that the best answer is to a solution or a problem is the most boring and the most commonplace answer. Because everybody can identify with that particular solution. Okay? So this, like now we'll take some time to read this particular case. एक बार पढ़ लीजिए अच्छा से. Everybody, read this case. Is visible? Visible a question? ठीक है? पढ़ लीजिए, आराम से पढ़ लीजिए. Done? Anup? Shalu? ठीक. Before coming to the question, let's see the passage. As I've told you, reading the passage is important. So one thing that you have to keep in mind, that the better you read, the better you identify the passage, the better you can use the passage in the questions. The more you use the passage in the question, the more you identify the problems in the question, in the passage, and you reflect it in your answers that they have asked, the better marks you get. So here, UPSC is also not asking you to write a perfect solution. UPSC is asking you to identify, comprehend the stakeholders, the problems. Okay? So then what we will do, we will create a legend, individual signature. What I used to do is this. In case of, let's say, stakeholders. So who will be the stakeholder? Your Additional Director General of Central Public Works Department. So this is, so underline. The Chief Architect is another stakeholder, underline, right? Seema, कहाँ गया Seema? Seema, ठीक है? This is as a senior architect, ठीक है? This is important, ठीक है? Now during briefing about the project, Seema, my suggestion is you could only value the project, ठीक है? But would also reduce the completion rate. This has made a chief architect insecure and is constantly worried that all the credit will go to her. Subsequently adopted passive aggressive behavior, ठीक है? So अच्छा, another, he would often correct in front of colleagues, another stakeholder, team members, ठीक है? Colleagues, ठीक है? Raise his voice while speaking to her. This continuous harassment has resulted in her losing, ठीक है? She has perpetrated, ठीक है? Okay? So primarily there are 4 stakeholders. Now what you do is you identify the issue, ethical issue, okay? And you give a different legend, you give a different sign for it. So in case I did underline the stakeholders, so in case of issue, what I will do? So बताइए issues क्या क्या है? Architect who is retired in 6 months is passionate working on a very important project, the successful completion of which would earn him lasting reputation for the rest of the. हाँ, a new lady architect, ठीक है. During the briefing about the project, Seema also substitution, ठीक है. This has made the chief architect ये, ठीक है. We'll go to her. Subsequently, he adopted this, ठीक है, towards her and has become disrespectful to her. These are then embarrassing, ठीक है, humiliating her, ठीक है. Like these are the issues. Harassment का, हाँ harassment भी था, हाँ continuous harassment, ठीक है. Continuous harassment मतलब क्या होगा? ICC will come here. Self, हाँ, losing self-esteem. She felt perpetually tensed, anxious, stress. ये भी होगा, ठीक है. This will also be there. This is also there, ठीक है. She appeared to be in awe since she had long tenure in the office and has vast, नहीं awe नहीं होगा, experience है, ठीक है. अभी you are aware of her outstanding academic credentials and career record in her previous organization. However, she compromising her, हाँ ये भी एक होगा, ठीक है. This also will be there. कहाँ पर? हाँ, may adversely, ठीक है. So you have identified the stakeholders as well as the ethical issues. The issues, not ethical issues. These are the primary issues. We have to frame them as ethical issues. So वो उसमें आएंगे, ठीक है. Now, अच्छा, this also contemplating tendering her resignation. A good employee is tendering resignation, right? So basically, your job is done. You have identified stakeholders. You have identified issues primarily, ठीक है. Now let's come to the question. So, what are the ethical issues involved in the above case, right? So before that, what I will do is, I'll start with the introduction. Now, introduction is important over here. Visible introduction. The case presents a workplace conflict in the Central Public Works Department. Now, it is important. In the very first line, we talk about what? What it is about? Workplace conflict. Is it workplace conflict? Is interpersonal conflict? Is it individual versus organization conflict? This is about workplace conflict. We mentioned that. And then what we say, that insecurity of the chief architect has led to the harassment. Insecurity of the chief architect has led to the harassment. The situation test. Now this is important. You have to mention this. ये अगर नहीं भी बताते हो ठीक है. Insecurity of the chief architect has led to the harassment because it reflects actually the case. If you don't even mention, it's okay. But this you have to mention. The situation tests leadership ability to balance efficiency, employee dignity, and organization harmony. In core, you're talking about my case will depend on these three things. Now you will say, yes, sir, how I will know about this? Because you will be creating 11 to 12 structure. वो हो जाएगा, मैं आपको दिखाऊंगा कैसे करना है, ठीक है. Immediately you do that. Automatically when you write a case, these kind of terms will come, ठीक है. Now what I do is I list down the stakeholders, ठीक है. Which are the Seema, organization, CPW, D, chief architect, team members, additional director general, and project beneficiary. The project is being made for somebody. They are also stakeholders. We mentioned those stakeholders. Now coming to ethical issue. Okay, there are two ways to approach ethical issue. One way is to mention the issue and associate the ethical issue with it. Other ways directly come to the point. I would suggest be very precise when you are mentioning ethical issue. Why? Why precision is needed when you are mentioning ethical issue? Anybody? Yes, demand is that. Like what? Understand the question. In case study, why it is important, but not in case study, in your any other ethics question, why it is important to be very precise about the issue, ethical issue. Okay. Anup? अच्छा. Most importantly, in our job in case study and in ethics paper is what? Our job is to identify crisis, ethical issues, whatever it is, problem, challenges, and to give a pointed, most acceptable, most democratic solution. For that, we have to be very pinpoint. So if you go to a doctor, when they diagnose a health issue, वो ऐसे बोलता है कि शायद आपका ये प्रॉब्लम है. There is no शायद in it. Diagnosis means it has to be a perfect prescription of what your disease is. In this case, ethical issue is nothing but diagnostics or diagnosis of your case. You have to be very precise. No prevarication. इधर उधर का बात नहीं चाहिए. एकदम what is the issue? Workplace harassment and violation of dignity at work. It's good. The difference between dilemma and ethical issue is dilemma is a part of ethical issue. Dilemma is a part of ethical issue. So whenever we are mentioning ethical issue, we will not. I have seen many papers. We tend to write all the ethical dilemma: efficiency versus compassion, transparency versus efficiency. These are and you will have. I have mentioned. By the way, I have mentioned one dilemma. I have mentioned one dilemma inside ethical issue. What is the organizational interest to make sure that the project is completed versus personal ego. Personal ego किसकी? वो senior. ठीक है? Chief advisor की. Right? So it is a part of ethical issue, but dilemma is not entirely ethical issue. Clear? And you are right, Ayush. Ethical issue means what? There is a set of value. There is a set of values. There is a set of principles or a virtue that is abrogated. तो क्या आएगा issues में? I have told you previously also, एक negative connotation आ जाएगा. Hence, देखो, workplace harassment and violation of what? Dignity is a value. Dignity is not actually a value. It's a virtue. Why? Why it's not a value and why it's a virtue? Difference between value and virtue, I told. It is the ultimate good. You cannot debate on this particular term. Value you can debate. You can't debate on dignity. Can you debate on dignity of a human being? Can you debate dignity of an animal? You can't do that. So that is the reason why it's a virtue. Okay? So again, as I've said, violation. So violation of dignity at work. So this is why there is a negative. Okay? Second is professional jealousy plus insecurity. As chief architect, fears of losing credit. Now here, I'm using my case study to remember, I told you, what did I tell you? Ki the moment you revert back to your case, the moment you give such examples from the case, as chief architect fears losing credit, the moment you do these, you are elevating your marks. Okay? That you're breaching the 10, 11 wala marks. Okay? Chalo. What is the third issue? Lacks gender sensitivity. Okay? Now, here, possible underlying bias in behavior towards a younger women colleague. Now here, you can frame it in two ways. एक individual level पे lack gender sensitivity of that particular person, and institution level पे भी, organization level पे भी. So we can actually divide it into two parts. ठीक है? Organizational interest versus personal ego. I told you this is a dilemma, but it comes under ethical issue. Clear? चलो. हाँ क्या? So those are the issues that I have framed. So based on those issues, we are creating an ethical issue. So I understand. आप सोच रहे हो कि अच्छा, that underline has gone. So we have underlined those issues over here, right? So those issues, for example, we have underlined Seema felt embarrassing as chief architect. So it violated what? Dignity. Okay? So the framing of this issue in form of ethical issue क्यों? उससे इश्यूज निकालना आसान हो जाएगा. दैट लैंग्वेज यू हैव टू लर्न. वो प्रैक्टिसिंग केस स्टडी मीन्स व्हाट? प्रैक्टिसिंग बार बार इसको लाइक identifying, because the moment you identify issues, you will automatically will come, acha, this particular value is being targeted. Embarrassing to women, dignity, violence, violation of your dignity. ठीक है? Based on this particular issue, we will identify the ethics behind it. Yes, ethical issue we have to identify. So this will help you identify those values that is abrogated or kind of depleted or violated. ठीक है? Clear, अनु? ठीक है, चलो. हाँ. यहाँ पे ethical issues बता रहा है. तो वो keywords क्यों नहीं यूज करते? सिलेबस में नहीं होते. पहले मैंने ये भी पढ़ा. That is like, so that is the way we will, like when we do case study, we'll be doing case study. So what we will do is this, primarily we have not done this process. What we will do is that we will use the syllabus to frame our ethical issues. ऐसे वैल्यूज निकालना वो तभी होगा जब आप प्रैक्टिस करोगे, और I'll show you कैसे निकालना है. There are most likes to come. Yes, Ayush. Teamwork and cooperation in the sense? इसको फ्रेम कैसे करोगे? पॉइंट इज वैलिड, एक्सीलेंट पॉइंट. इसको फ्रेम कैसे करोगे? हाँ, वो आएगा. बट व्हाट आयुष इज सेइंग कि टीम वर्क इज अफेक्टेड, इज बीइंग अफेक्टेड, तो उसको फ्रेम कर. हाँ, व्हाई नॉट? टीमवर्क इज अ वैल्यू. ठीक है, एंड इट्स बीइंग वायलेटेड. सो क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पर? There is an ethical issue, like, and how will I frame it? बताओ कैसे फ्रेम करेंगे? Because here I have mentioned 4, because you will not have much time to mention too many things, right? These are the main things. But teamwork वाला भी issue, like if you want to frame it as an ethical issue, कैसे frame करो? Since the 2 million stakeholders are involved. The teamwork versus like credit seeking behavior. Individualism. देखो, like I'm telling you ना, it works like magic. If you understand issues, if you understand stakeholders, if you understand the negative connotation with ethical issue, and I will list you some of the terms. Workplace ethics में जितने भी terms है, I have listed. Major framework. Major. We almost all. 90%. Almost all. It will come here. You have to. The challenge is not making the framework. वो तो आप बैठोगे आज कल हो जाएगा. The challenge is how to use it. How to mold it as per the case. And that's the reason what did I say in the beginning of the class? It is not about writing. It is about reading the case well and application. The moment you learn to do this, nobody can stop you from getting less than 12. But that is a challenge. But case study. So total 12, around 11 to 12 framework are there. नहीं, ये तो पर्टिकुलर वर्कप्लेस एथिक्स की है, उसकी लैंग्वेज अलग होगा. वर्कप्लेस एथिक्स में कीवर्ड्स विल बी डिफरेंट, अप्रोच विल बी डिफरेंट, कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन विल बी डिफरेंट इन वर्कप्लेस एथिक्स के इश्यूज में. नहीं समझा नहीं, आई डिड नॉट अंडरस्टैंड. 12 फ्रेमवर्क इन द सेंस 12 थीम है, 12 टाइप्स. हाँ, फॉर एग्जाम्पल वर्कप्लेस एथिक्स एट टुडे विल डू क्राइसिस मैनेजमेंट. ठीक है, सो देयर आर अराउंड 12. Basically, I have divided into, based on PYQs, I have divided into 12. You can fit almost all, I think 95% you can almost fit into those 12. But challenge is not that. Challenge is to mold your present case study based on the structure that you have prepared, which is very important. Okay, chalo. Now we will come to this section. What are the major options? I think everybody has come across this. इसमें 2 mistakes we make. 2 mistakes. First mistake is that when we give options, This part, the kind of options that is needed, we give very generic options. ठीक है, very generic options. That should not be done. Second is, usually what happens, we have to give 3 options. Out of that, 2 options are negated and one option is chosen. When we are not choosing 2 options, you have to keep one thing in mind, that their demerit will be higher than their merit because we are not choosing them. We are quantifying the options. Quantifying the options in the sense there are 1, 2, 3 demerits and here is only 2 merit and hence I will not choose that option. लोग क्या करते हैं कि they give 2 merits to demerits. Then why you are negating? The question comes, then why are you negating that option? This option. ठीक है? So first option is ignore issue to avoid conflict. जो 90% of the cases में होता है. Now this is not generic. This is important because in most of the organizations this happens. कि 90% of the people or management will ignore. अरे अभी कुछ ही दिन बाकी है सीनियर रिटायरमेंट के, ठीक है, 6 months, छोड़ो, इग्नोर करते हैं. तो उसमें इशू क्या है कि मेरिट, व्हाट इज दिस, सेव इमीडिएट कॉन्फ्रंटेशन and maintain status quo without upsetting senior officer. But what is the problem? Harassment continues, loss of SEMA's contribution and well-being. Now this is again a value. Well-being is a value. ठीक है? Loss of SEMA's contribution and well-being. Ethical duty of our leader is compromised. This is very important. This particular case is also about leadership. You are not taking action. This is from this case study is from your point of view. You are not taking action, so ethical duty is compromised. Negative work culture persists. So there is an issue. You're not taking steps or reprimandatory steps. What happens? Your work culture खत्म हो रहा है. ठीक है? What is the second? नहीं, वो नहीं लिखना है. नहीं. But you are right. I have seen many people writing this. इतना टाइम नहीं मिलेगा. You have to you will have only 11 to 12 minutes. Will not. Would you choose? Usually the third option we choose. अभी उसमें आते हैं. तो remove the chief architect. जो बदमाशी कर रहा है, जो harass कर रहा है, उसको हटा दो. Now this is also not generic. Why? Because here when we are reading, we will feel कि अरे ये तो this particular chief architect he is creating nuisance, इसको हटा देते. बस उसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या होगा? तो what were the benefits? Remove the root cause of harassment immediately and send strong message to zero tolerance for workplace misconduct. So these are the good things, merits. But problem, loss of vast experience and institutional memory. Now these are the things, these are the terms that you have to use in workplace ethics. Institutional memory. The moment you use this institutional memory, the phrase, your marks is elevated. Decisions can be demoralizing for others. Why? Whom? Those people who are seniors, his colleague, because he has been staying in the place for so long. So the more you show acquaintance with the case, the better. Could affect project continuity plus might attract legal complication. But the project continuity, because that person is also a part of it, that will project continuity को affect करेगा and might attract legal complications, because if he is fired or he is removed, that particular person can take legal actions. ठीक है? So again, this is not a valid. So there are 3 demerits. ठीक है? Now option 3 is mediate and create a collaborative credit sharing structure. Right? The moment you write this, so this is how to manage crisis. We create a credit sharing structure. कि भाई आपका domain ये है, your role is this, you do in this particular domain, you accomplish your job, you get credit. ठीक है? Seema does it, Seema get credit for the role she does. The senior architect, he does it, he gets credit for what he does. ठीक है? So उसमें merit, what is a merit? Retain Seema's talent plus chief architect's experience, balancing both. Improve team's cohesion and project outcomes. Both are coming together. Opportunity for senior to mentor junior and boost morale. ठीक है? So these are the demerit. क्या होगा? Requires time and effort for mediation, and there is no success depends on willingness of both parties. ठीक है? So और यहाँ पर आप 2 demerit की वजह एक demerit भी दे सकते हो. but again here the merit is 3. ठीक है. Now what are my response to Seema's predicament? हाँ.
What are the options which you would explore and which option will you choose and why? ये which option will you choose and why? अगर इसी
Very good questions. So 3 options आप देते हैं. Third option you will choose, right? I will be choosing the third option. Because of this reason, उसका process, this is another process. Now, course of action जो आप बोल रहे हो, the course of action that you have to take. So basically, when you are framing course of action, there is a way to frame course of action. And then again, I will be giving the merits of that option. Merits of the option and course of action is different. Merits of the action that you have chosen and course of action is different. Course of action is that how you will be taking option 3, like how will you implement option 3. ठीक है, मतलब आप वही बोल रहे हो ना, नहीं क्या बोल रहे हो? Option 3 ठीक है. अच्छा, for following. नहीं repetition नहीं होगा. So basically, so Ayush's question is this: if the question asks कि list down the options and mention which option you will choose and why will you choose that particular option. So basically, this is your question, right? Now, so you mentioned 2 options जहाँ पर you will not be choosing. And then you come to the third option where you will be choosing that particular option, right? Here, merit, that particular section, the merit section can be enlarged. ठीक है? जहाँ पर you give more points, like 4 or 5 points for merit section. But you don't have to repeat the content again. उसका कोई फायदा नहीं है. If you mention कि merit के section में you mention 4 or 5 points, why I'm choosing that particular action. So if they had asked ki why, so option 3, right? Credit sharing structure. This is the option that I will choose. And why? ये 3 points तो रहेंगे, ठीक है? कि retain Seema's talent, chief architect's experience, improve team's cohesion and project outcomes, opportunity for seniors to mentors juniors, boost morale, and other reasons. बोलकर then I would write कि ensures leadership quality of managing a crisis based on certain universal values. ठीक है, वो values बता देंगे, ठीक है, जैसे organizational justice, ठीक है, so something like that, ठीक है. But here the weightage will be more, मतलब उसका अलग से section बताकर we don't have to mention the merits again, ठीक है. Then it will be a repetitive process, ठीक है, ठीक है. So my response to Seema's predicament. Right. That is important. So, like when you are mentioning options,
the third option offers more merits than the other options, and hence also
you can attach 2 sentences at the end. Ki third options give more merits. There are more merits to the third option, and hence this particular option I'll be choosing. Yes, sir. Every point has to be ethically justified. Merits, demerits has to be ethical balance. I have talked about. No? It has to be ethical decision that you have to make over here. कैसे बताइए? हाँ, तो we can elaborate this section, but there is no need. There is no need. I will tell you the reason why. Because first of all, you will not get time to repeat the content again. ठीक है? और that will again test the nerves of your examiner also. So basically, what you do is that you give more weightage to merit, and at the end you write this one line ki, as Ayush was saying, ki like because the merits are much more or higher or more qualitatively better than other merits, right? Option third is the best option. We can write this. ठीक है, चलो. Now my response to Seema's predicament. Now here we will try to divide it between immediate steps and long-term steps. Okay? So immediate steps will listen empathetically to Seema and provide institutional support. Now, because you are a leader, this is very important, institutional support. That whatever happens, the institution is behind you. Okay? So this is the first. Second is counsel chief architect. Now here you will not listen to him. You have to talk from the position of authority. Now this is a difference. Talk from the position of authority in the sense you are occupying a place of power. From there you have to reprimand him. You have to tell him that look, you have to ensure that organizational role is maintained. You have to ensure that the harassment does not take place, right? And we can devise a process where collaborative credit can be done, can be shared. Okay? And you can, and then you mention and talk to him. Okay, look, you can be a mentor to this new, because in 6 months you are going to retire, right? And leave the organization with a bang, with an image of yourself which shows that young people can look up to you. Okay? Okay, joint project framework, define clear roles. Seema leads, suggest, so whatever she has suggested, okay, like project improvement, enhancement, okay. Chief architect ensure design integrity, okay, based on the case. Again, we'll go to the case who has the more authority in that particular area, okay. Then workplace conduct, this is important. So यहाँ पर now we can mention some of the key terms like ICC. You have heard about ICC? Internal Complaints Committee. So यहाँ पर workplace conduct guidelines, here reinforce zero tolerance of public humiliation. Again, going back to case, there it has been mentioned public humiliation, and here I have not mentioned, but we can mention that if ICC is not present, functioning, we have to create ICC. If ICC is functioning, that we have to ensure that it is functioning properly. Okay, then preventive measure, regular sensitization workshop. This is very generic. ये कहीं पर भी मतलब long term measure में workshop हो गया, seminars हो गए, ठीक है. Anonymous grievance mechanism, very important. Anonymous grievance mechanism. इसके ऊपर तो we have a case also, ठीक है. Like we'll discuss that. Credit sharing norm. The moment you define your roles, you will like have, and then mentorship policy you can have in organization. Which again, this mentorship policy is not only in UPSC. It is now being adopted across corporate world. This mentorship policy. Ethical leadership. This particular question is about how you are a leader. Ethical leadership requires harmonizing personal pride with organizational purpose. This shows that how you are seeing a person who has this pride in him, but make sure that that organizational purpose or organizational value or organizational vision is prioritized over personal pride. Okay, that is ethical leadership that you have to balance. Okay, and this is the last case we'll talk. Acha, this is what keywords I'm talking about. Okay, so what are the keywords? Workplace harassment, hostile work environment, power dynamics, passive aggressive behavior, professional jealousy, rivalry, toxic leadership, abusive of. You have all heard these. Abhi isko likho mat, I'll share this. This PDF will be uploaded in your Telegram and YouTube also. Okay. Now, organizational justice, workplace retaliation, psychological safety. So, like, these are the terms that we can use when you are mentioned when workplace ethics we are talking about. Okay. Move on to the last case. Okay. Okay. Read this case. Just take time and read this case. Aram se padhiye because this is a bit tricky. Okay. So again, what is our job? Underline the stakeholders and issues. एक साथ कर लेते हैं जल्दी से, ठीक है? With the summer heat being exceptionally severe, एक issue है. The district has been facing severe water crisis, water shortage. Again, issue. The district collector, this is your stakeholder, has been mobilizing subordinate officials. This is your, again, stakeholder to conserve the remaining water reserves for the preventing the district from plunging into acute drinking water crisis. Okay? Along with an awareness campaign for conserving water, strict measures have been taken for stopping the over-exploitation of groundwater. Vigilance team, this is your stakeholder.
Over-exploitation of groundwater is an issue.
Over-exploitation of groundwater. Okay, this is again an issue. Vigilance team have been deployed to tour the villages, okay, and find the farmers, okay, who are drawing water from deep borewells or from the river reservoir for irrigation. The farmers are agitated by such action. A delegation of farmers meet the district collector with their issues and complaints that while they are not being allowed to irrigate their crop, this is an issue. Big industries located near the river are drawing huge amounts of water through deep borewells for the industrial processes. Okay?
Big industries will have an issue or a
Stakeholder. Acha. Okay. Okay. The farmers allege that their administration is anti-farmer and corrupt, being bribed by the industry. Bribed will be an issue. The district needs to placate the farmers as they are threatening to go on prolonged protest. Prolonged protest is an issue. At the same time, the district collector has to deal with the water crisis. Okay? The industry cannot close as this would result in a large number of workers being unemployed. Unemployment is an issue. Okay?
Corruption.
कहाँ पर? Third last line. Corrupt and bribed. Workers, stakeholders, workers will also be there. Stakeholders. Good. Okay. Okay. So basically, you have workers be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Around 5 stakeholders and around 5 or 6 crises you have. Okay? Clear? Now, what are the questions? Discuss all options available to the district collectors as a district magistrate. What suitable actions can be taken in a view of mutually compatible interests of the stakeholders? What are the potential administrative and ethical dilemmas of the district collector? Simple questions. Okay? So, इसमें एक गलती हो गया. I did not list the stakeholders. इसमें stakeholders will come. You have to mention the stakeholders. How to introduce? Simple. What is scarcity? Again, introduction has to come directly to the major problem. Water scarcity poses a serious governance challenge. The district collector must ensure equitable distribution, environmental sustainability, and public trust while balancing livelihoods of farmers and industry workers. So these are the key terms. Again, when you practice, this will invariably be there in your introduction. Okay, what are the options available? Strict enforcement of ban on deep borewells. And not only for the industry, but for the farmers also. But what are the problems? Problems may provoke strong farmer protest. Closure of industries, unemployment plus revenue loss. Creates perception of an insensitive, authoritarian administrative, loss of this, ye wala jo term hai na. Like you have to frequently use loss of public trust. Okay. What are the benefits? Uphold the law without discrimination and conserves maximum water for drinking needs, because this is the highest priority. Drinking is the highest priority. Okay, and we'll show you below why drinking is the highest priority. Okay. Chalo. Prioritizing agriculture by restricting industrial use temporarily. Now, this is also not a generic, because India is a primarily agricultural dominated country, right? Primary sector is one of the so-called focus of our country. So, again, as an administrator, as a DM, the normalcy kya hoga ki arey bhai protest hoga, this hoga. So, I have to take the stand with the farmers. What I do is prioritize agriculture by restricting industrial use temporarily. Okay? So, what is the demerit? Industrial backlash plus possible job loss. Again, we have mentioned that. Merit is support farmers' livelihood and food security, shows administration empathy. Okay? But this is not something that we will be choosing. What we will be choosing, what are the other demerits? May discourage future industrial investment in the district. If you're taking this kind of policy measures, then what will happen? जैसे for example सिंगूर में क्या हुआ था in West Bengal? Tata Nano made a factory. वहाँ पर ममता दी आई and she created her own legacy and gone to Gujarat. ठीक है? So that will happen और वो होगा. Trust me. Risks and you know, in case of industry when they take decision, right? If even there is a historical prejudice by a government in regarding to any 4 factors of production, be it labor, be it land, capital and entrepreneurship, they will not even look in that place, particularly land. They will not even, for example, that happened with Tata, they did not even, abhi to now they are entering West Bengal for a different reason, but for almost 10-12 years, they were absent from West Bengal. Okay. हाँ तो like वहाँ पर पूरा फ्रेम करना है empathetic, but again, so you're right. So empathetic because I have taken the decision in behalf of the farmers. So empathetic towards farmers. ठीक है? Okay. Option third, again, negotiated solution with regulated use plus alternative measures. Now this is a long-term thing. इसलिए plus later I have read it. But negotiated solution, this phrase, whenever there is crisis management, you have, like just mention this, negotiated solution with regulated usage. Yeah, regulated usage will depend from case to case. But this negotiated solution will not. Because there are 2 stakeholders which are fighting. अब बीच में हो, क्या करना है? Negotiate ही करना है. District management, आप लोग बनोगे, आपको यही करना है. ठीक है? So what is a merit? Builds trust through dialogue, reducing allegation of bias. If you take decision for this stakeholder, this particular person will blame you. If you take decision for this stakeholder, this particular section will blame you. So negotiated dealing में क्या होगा? There is no allegation of bias. ठीक है? Ensure balanced water sharing, obviously. ठीक है? Promote sustainable solutions. Now this is long term. Micro irrigation and recycle water use. This is long term. ठीक है? What is the challenge? Monitoring compliance is a challenge because how do you monitor how much water will go here and there? ठीक है? Okay. Now, what are the suitable actions? Second, what was the second question? What are the suitable actions will you take? So here it is important that, just a second. So suitable action mean like what are short term mein what you are taking, immediately what you are taking. Enforce groundwater norms uniformly, no preferential treatment, Article 14. The moment you give this particular article, this is where it shows that your ethical decision is based on what? Constitutional morality. We will not go into that positive discrimination. Like equality, we are talking about equality. We are talking about a person like our decision is based on that. Okay? Regulate industry, mandate use of recycled water. Now this is again, this can be a short term. अभी हमारे जितने भी policies आ रहे हैं ना, this is categorically. For example, ZLD, zero liquid discharge. It's a short term. People are saying no, it's a short term policy. You have to ensure that there is zero liquid discharge in your from your industry. Regulate infrastructure. So industry has been categorically mentioned. Policy measures आ गया है under that we discussed under Water Act 1974. Long term does not. So like again, time period is there, but in this case, pollution is not a long term. Whatever decision has been taken based on pollution is not long term. It's not that after 5 years or 10 years, इसकी effect दिखेगी. No, means that in another next 1 to 3 years. Short term means that next 1 to 3 years that you have to show, and that's the reason why आप देखो ना कि like there has been a good effect of river discharge में, ठीक है? Like because of strong policy that you cannot refine your water and just put it into the river. Okay, there has categorical policy, and that's the reason why you have seen like many stretches of the rivers have improved in their pollution markers. Okay. Provide emergency irrigation support via tankers and community ponds. So this is again very short term. Now here it is important. When we come to long term and when we are talking about crisis management, right? This particular case is about crisis management. We will always divide it into this sections: policy of industrial, like institutional measures. So we will divide into 2 or 3 sections. So एक policy level पे what work will you do? ठीक है? What environment, because this is about environment, on what environment level पे you will do. And third and most important is on community and behavioral initiative, like incentives. What will you do? You divide it into these 3 parts. ठीक है? So ठीक है? ठीक है? So long-term measures is always policy level पे. It is always behavioral, because again, as Modit was saying, behavior is something is very difficult to change. आप आज बोलोगे तो कल नहीं कर लोगे. ठीक है? We eat chocolate, we eat something. It will take time not to throw it on road and put it in our trousers, in our pockets. ठीक है? It takes time. It comes with time, right? Okay, chalo. So now what on a long-term policy and institutional measure, as we do more case study, I will tell you how to frame this also. ठीक है? तो in policy में frame strict groundwater regulation policy of that district. Over India में तो है ही है. That तो if you say that frame strict groundwater regulation, then you are communicating to examiner कि you don't know कि there is strict groundwater regulation. तो यहाँ पर क्या करना है? Frame strict groundwater regulation policy of that particular district. You tailor it as per that particular district. Create water allocation policy. मतलब in that particular district, first priority was increasing priority. Drinking is the first priority. Then comes agri, then industry. ठीक है? It will be controversial. Like people will say, why industry up or agri down? But here, because we are farmer-dominated community, we have to give precedence to agriculture. ठीक है? Now, what are the environmental and technological steps that you will implement? Here, when you are mentioning, I did not mention, we have to mention government schemes which are existing presently. I have mentioned only one, but we have to mention about बहुत सारे भूजल योजना, ठीक है? Then like जितने भी information है, जितने भी initiatives हैं, we will put it here. ठीक है? So यहाँ पर भी behavioral incentives में भी आएंगे. Watershed management, rainwater harvesting, incentives, drip irrigation, sprinkler system, drought resistant crop like Shrianna millets. The moment you mention, because agriculture is talked about, irrigation is talked about, this is something which requires very less water. ठीक है? You will get good marks. Mandate industry to adopt ZLD. Now again the mistake is that it has always been mandated. ZLD in that particular district. Mention that in that particular district. Enforce the ZLD ZLD policy by the state, by the center. This will be a better way to frame it.
Is it in collaboration with other districts for such that?
Very good. PPP model maybe we can create. We can create PPP model to ensure water infrastructure being created. We can ensure that the district, like the nearby district magistrate of the nearby district can be brought into confidence to create a holistic, because watershed management does not follow the administrative boundary. Watershed management is a geographical boundary. So here, particular pass wale district bhi you have to take into confidence. Very good. हाँ, उदित. ZLD बताओ. ZLD is so very common. मतलब उतना like so अच्छा, so for example RBI, ठीक है? अभी ZLD is something is so very common that if you write ZLD, examiner will understand. It will come. ZLD is very common. Zero liquid discharge लिख भी सकते हो. It's not an issue. But the thing is that अच्छा ऐसे करके नहीं अंडरलाइन, जस्ट अंडरलाइन. हाँ वो कॉमन होता है. ठीक है. अच्छा then comes your behavioral incentives. Now whenever it comes to behavioral, you will have to prepare a mind map. How, like when you are doing your this क्या बोलते हैं उसको, theory वाले questions, what are the ways your behavior is modulated in a short term, in long term, in immediate term, in long term. So what are the ways? So you will learn there. ठीक है? So one of the ways is awareness campaign of water conservation. Awareness campaign in the sense you engage personalities. ठीक है? Then encourage farmers cooperatives to share water efficiently. So how do we? So this is a bit generic because we are reforming the behavior. तो यहाँ पर we have to talk about the behavioral aspect. बिल्कुल डाल सकते हो यहाँ पर तो लाइक यू कैन गिव द राजस्थान में देयर आर ample number of success stories. Go to betterindia.com and there are so many good success stories about water conservation. ठीक है, then you can talk about this particular man who has dug up around ये I think South India में somewhere I think it is in Andhra या Karnataka he has dug up like over 1,000 ponds.
Using mild fear approach that is deterrence of law and fines.
Using what approach?
Mild fear approach.
Mild fear approach.
Or behavioral changes. Use of an anti-depressant.
You can do that. You can write. Very good. This is how you write behavioral approach. ठीक है? Train local youth in water auditing and monitoring. Now, have you come across this term, water auditing? So, this is something, whenever there is water crisis, now this particular term is used, water auditing, and you have to understand this first. ये water auditing क्या होता है, ठीक है? So, your homework will be to understand ये water auditing क्या है, ठीक है? अब कर लीजिए. This is very important, ठीक है? अच्छा, now coming to administrative and ethical dilemmas. Now, people will differentiate between administrative dilemma and ethical dilemma. But again, because of, I wrote this in 15 minutes, ठीक है? I read the question, I wrote in 15 minutes, and the reason I'm telling you, because so I wrote this section, I had only 3 to 4 minutes. So I did not want to breach the 15 minutes mark, and hence I would have divided administrative dilemma and ethical dilemma, but I would have breached by another 1 or 1.5, 2 minutes. उसमें क्या होगा? Next case study, I would compromise. So if you see this section, I have given very less weightage. And it's okay. Okay. So what are the dilemmas? Equity versus efficiency. Now this is ethics. This is what I'm talking about. Farmer survival versus industrial employment. एकदम brief. Short-term relief versus long-term sustainability. Short-term relief मतलब अभी borewell खोल दो and let industry and let agricultural person have free will. ठीक है. But what is a long-term crisis? After 2 years, 3 years, ना ही industry रहेगा, ना ही you will have this agriculture over there. ठीक है. Rule of law versus empathy. Now, rule of law will say what? Rule of law will say that no, there is a policy, we have determined a policy, we'll stick to it. But empathy will say what? Are agriculture, poor is there, we have to help them, let the borewell be open for them. Okay? So, these are the dilemmas that you are facing. Finally, the collector must act with fairness, transparency, and sustainability, ensuring water as a what? Public good. Agree. Absolutely. Equity and efficiency, farmer survival, industrial employment. So that particular point comes also, but ठीक है. We can mention. अच्छा, this is not important. Important is this: crisis management and stakeholder conflict में what are the technical terms that you should know? Governance and administration में equity in resource allocation, public accountability, rule of law, participatory governance, administrative neutrality. Crisis management and leadership, proportionality principle. This is very important term. Proportionality principle. Okay. Proportionality principle. This is very important. Now, when we'll do ethics properly, we will understand this. Precautionary principle, right? And in case of climate change, in case of resource crisis, sustainability, ये terms ना हमें use करना है. Whatever it is, we have to use these terms. ठीक है? Conflict resolution, consensus building, resilience building. ठीक है? चलो. Finally, ethical principles, distributive justice, intergenerational equity. You know that this ये तो sustainability का primary value is this impartiality and fairness and transparency. That you're taking decision based on this. ठीक है? Clear? Sure.
सोशल मीडिया में इनको लिखा था तो वहाँ पे वाटर स्कैर्सिटी का कोई डेटा बना सकते हैं.
You can say that, but when you are mentioning data in that particular case, it has to be overall data. ठीक है, ओवरऑल डेटा की वी कैन से दैट इंडिया इज अ वाटर स्कार्स कंट्री एंड इट्स वाटर ग्राउंड वाटर लेवल हैज और इट्स कितना था 1700 से गिरकर अभी कितना हो गया 1200-1300 ऐसे हो गया, हैव टू चेक, ठीक है, समथिंग लाइक दैट, आई फॉरगॉट द डेटा, ठीक है, तो यू कैन गिव डेटा, या यू कैन, और देखो इसमें ना बहुत सारे वैल्यूएडिशन और भी बाकी है, सो I've just given you the structure presently. Valuation, like we have to give constitutional provision, we have to give key terms, we have to mention key initiatives by the government. ठीक है, यहाँ पर codes बता सकते हैं, ठीक है, यहाँ पर जैसे अभी we were talking about, we can give success stories also, ठीक है, how, हाँ, तो we, and trust me, ऐसे वाले cases we will not lose opportunity and get like average 9 and 10. Our goal is to get around 11 and 12, ठीक है.